Welcome back. We're drinking coffee, we're doing programming for artists, we're looking at loops, and we're making more and more complicated things to help organize our barbecue in C++. Okay, we're back. Putting the coffee away. Probably making awful rumbling noises on the microphone. We were looking last time at how to build conditional statements. If the number of people coming to a barbecue is 0, go and watch TV, else prepare for an awesome barbecue. This time, if there are more than 0 people coming to the barbecue, I want to count through how many people are coming and get prepared for them. So we're going to use a loop. We looked at loops last time on paper, and I promised you that that's everything that there was, and then there were 1 or 2 more things that were dead simple but also really useful and cool. But our structure is basically like this. We start with an integer and we give it an initial value, and we count through until that value becomes something, or while that value is less than something else. In this case, we started with 0. We said count through using the I++, the plus iterator, which adds 1, but we could add 10 each time or 20 each time, or even subtract and count down until this condition here is not true. I is less than the number of people, and the loop will keep running while that's true, and we can give it a bunch of stuff to do. So the way that we type that, and again we're working in Visual Studio Code, is I'm going to get rid of half of this stuff from conditional statements. We're still going to have an integer for the number of people. We're going to say how many people are coming to the barbecue and type it in using the cin command. But this time I'm going to say, I'm going to build a for loop, and I'm going to use the integer I. But it could be Jeff or Fred or X or Y or Z or any other things, but I is just, for some reason, is commonly used. I'm going to make an integer called I. I'm going to start it at 0, and then I'm going to say keep going through this loop while I is less than the number of people coming to the barbecue. So if there's no people coming to the barbecue, it won't run the loop. But if there's 10, it'll run it 10 times through. And then every time we go through the loop, I'm going to change I. I'm going to add 1 to I. And I could say I equals I plus 1. But there's a quicker way, which makes you look like a super cool hacker programmer, which is to use I++. Therein, we get a programmer joke. C was the language before C++. C++ is C plus 1. It's 1 better than C. It's a programmer joke. Now, there is a very, very important thing that you need to remember, which is this. If I can find some paper. In a Venn diagram, there is an intersection. This is programmer jokes, and this is dad jokes. For those of you out here watching, do not go here. Therein lies danger. So back to what we were doing. C++, programmer joke, it's 1 better than C. This instance, we're using a for loop. We start at 0. We keep looping while counter I is less than the number of people, and we add 1 to it each time. So really, really simply, let's have a look at what happens. So I'm just going to use console out again, and I'm going to say a person is coming to the barbecue. End the line. And every time we go through the loop, it's going to output this and end the line. For as many people as there are coming to the barbecue, as many as there are in the integer number of people. So I'm going to save this as loops, So I've got my C++ file loops, I'm going to come to my console and I'm going to say, let's compile this G++, loops, cpp -o, output it as loops, Compiles, awesome. Haven't made a mistake for at least 10 minutes. This is looking good. So, loops, How many people are coming to the barbecue? It asks me. I'm going to make this a little bigger. How many people are coming to the barbecue? 10? And it goes dung, 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 dung. A person is coming to the barbecue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It runs through the loop 10 times. Awesome. But we could make this a little bit more flexible because I is incrementing each time. It's adding 1 to it. So we could say person, and then I can concatenate all these things together. I and what will happen here is it'll output to the console the word person and then pipe next to it or concatenate whatever is in I and stick that out, and then run through as many people as there are coming to the barbecue. So let's loop through and compile this again and tell it to run again. How many people are coming to the barbecue? 5. Person 0, person 1. Interestingly, we started I at 0, so that's where it begins, and runs through 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, 5 times. So we can now count through stuff, which is really, really cool, because as we saw last time where we included vectors, we can now count through, potentially saying, grab the name from position 0 in the vector, position 1 in the vector, position 2 in the vector, position 3 in the vector, etc. We can run that really simply now. So I'm going to include the vector library, and I'm going to make a vector of strings called names, and I'm going to ask in a loop the names of the people that are coming to the barbecue and put them into the vector. So I'm going to use cin inside a loop, and then I'm going to print them out. So I'm going to make a for loop for int I equals 0. Again, I looping while I is less than number of people, and again I plus plus. Just remember, programmer jokes, dad jokes, don't go here. And in my loop, I'm going to say cin console input going to make a string, Let's give this a new helpful name, new name. So I made a string called new name, and then it's empty, but I'm going to put into new name whatever I type in from the console. So it'll type in a string, and then I'm going to say names dot push back whatever I've just typed into new name. And then down here, where we're looping through the number of people and saying person 1, person 2, etc. is coming, I'm going to say console output name is, and it'll be at whatever position. I want to count through all of these things, whatever position that is in our vector of names. Their name is, and I'm going to say names, use a square brackets to find a position, but instead of putting a number in there, I'm going to put the variable I, and as I loops 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., it'll look at position 1 in names, 2 in names, 3 in names, etc. So, we make an integer of the number of people. We type in how many people are coming. This has to be an integer, so it's numbers. And then we loop through typing the names in, and they'll become strings in this list of vectors. And then we loop through printing them back out. So let's go and compile in our console, in our terminal. Loops, Oh, okay, so line 12, new name. I've got an error here. It's expecting this at the end, semicolon. There it is. Cool. So we're doing some debugging as well. Tell this to compile. It compiles okay. I tell it to run the loop. How many people are coming to the barbecue? 4. And I type in Jeff, Mahia, Steve, and Sophia, and they're in the vector, and it goes through and says person 0 is coming to the barbecue, their name is Jeff, next person Mahia, next person Steve, next person Sophia. So, in our code, we use console input, we use a loop asking for more input, and we take those items and we put them one after another into a vector. And then we use another loop to count through our vector, pulling out the information from it. So that's a simple introduction to how cool and useful loops can be. This recording may have completely screwed up because the machine down here is on the fritz, slightly distracting, but there you go. Don't work with computers. We're building loops and we can build awesome stuff with them. Next time I'm going to be looking at classes, and I'm going to be doing some more programming with C++ for artists. So hit the subscribe link, like it, leave me some comments below, and I'll see you on the next video.